Do Your Job Wrestling Hour with your host, the ConKaiserdor and old school Avis Hathaway. Pin me, pay me, do your job. Pin me, pay me, do your job. Pin me, pay me, do your job. Pin me, pay me, do your.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour right here on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, the ConKaiserdor, and alongside me is old school Avis Hathaway. Welcome back to another great show tonight, as we will have on the show in just a little bit a real legend of the wrestling business, the Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, along with his manager, Fantasy, will be right here live on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour tonight, so you don't want to miss it. It will be a great show indeed. Old school Avis Hathaway, Bud, what's going on there tonight?
How's it going, Bud? Doing the show remotely, up in, closer to your neck of the woods. I am not in the Do Your Job Studios South, as usual, but ready for a fantastic show. Very excited to talk to Fidel Sierra. He's a real legend of the wrestling business, and anybody who's not familiar with him, you're in for a big treat. This guy's, he's worked all the big names you can think of.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show, He's done some good work, too, with Florida Underground down in South Florida, so he's still kind of wrestling on the scene, so great stuff. We're really pleased to have him on the show, as well as his manager, Fantasy, and should be a great night of wrestling banter, as always, Guy. You know, we bring it. And, let's kind of kick off with some news before we get going on the interview. Something that came a little shocker to me. Now, of course, you never really know in the wrestling business. Forever isn't a real term, it seems. But Chris Jericho had posted on his Twitter Saturday that he would never wrestle for the WWE again. Now, that's some pretty big news.
I heard something about that. I don't know how much I believe it. Chris Jericho he's one of those guys that says a lot of things on Twitter, and you almost have to take it with a grain of salt, because Chris Jericho is not a guy I ever see going to TNA. He's had his opportunities to go there in the past. I'm not sure he will ever wrestle again. He's content to, be touring with his band, doing a little bit of acting here and there. But I think it's a foregone conclusion. Sooner or later, we will see him in the WWE. Maybe as soon as like WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble, maybe he's trying to swerve people a little bit, get people talking, thinking, hey, maybe he's going to go to TNA, and then you never know. Maybe he shows up as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble. I definitely think you will see him back in WWE, though.
Yeah, like I said, never say never in the wrestling business. But speaking of who may be jumping to TNA, there is talk that one John Morrison may not be renewing his contract for possibilities of going to TNA.
Well, the story with that is his contract is coming up for renewal, and he's been in the doghouse a little bit since WrestleMania. The rumors circulating are, part of it has to do with his and Melina's treatment of Trish Stratus, because he was very upset that Trish Stratus had a WrestleMania match and Melina did not. I don't think Melina's on anywhere near the level Trish Stratus is, so I really don't think you can really bitch too much about it. But, obviously, as everybody's seen on Raw, he's been kind of jobbed out as of late. He's starting to try to get they're putting a little bit behind him again, I guess, in hopes that maybe they'll re-sign him. John Morrison is a very good in-ring performer, but he's not very good on the mic, and until he gets better on the mic, he's really not going to get past that mid-card level. They tried to give him a little bit of a, not main event, but upper-tier push for a while there, and his mic skills just aren't up to par. So, to me, it wouldn't be the biggest loss for WWE, but at the same time, it would be a great get for TNA, because he's a big enough name, he's over enough with the fans that people might tune in. But, again, it would just kind of seem like another guy that didn't quite make it in WWE getting pushed for the moon in TNA.
That's true, but, kind of going back to when, you have a guy who's still a name. He's a young talent. He's got years and years and years on his career still. what they can do with debuting him and building that up. If they do it properly, he could really be a big deal in TNA.
He could be, but again, the problem he runs into is his mic skills. And, I mean, there's not a whole lot of guys that have really broken through to that main event level, that number 1, 2 guy, without having those mic skills. And, I mean, I'm taking nothing away from Morrison in the ring. I think Morrison is phenomenal in the ring. I really do. I think he's exciting to watch. He incorporates some of that parkour stuff, and, he's flipping around, jumping around the ring. And, I mean, it's very exciting to watch. And I think his skill level as a wrestler, he could definitely get over and be if not a top guy, on the upper level of guys. But I just don't see, unless he gets his mic skills sharpened, him really being a top guy. Now, TNA could certainly use him as a top guy because TNA is getting a little thin, and there's also been talk about them losing some of their top guys, not top guys, but a couple bigger names in the Dudley Boys when their contracts are going up in August. So, I mean, you never really know. The other thing with John Morrison, as you alluded to, is he's got years left on his body, really. So, I mean, he could go to TNA, put together a successful run, and find himself right back in the WWE because, let's face it, the WWE is the top of the game. That's where everybody wants to be.
Sure, it certainly is, and I totally believe what, you're absolutely right. Now, speaking of guys who may be future endeavored, WWEshop.com has released a John Laurinaitis Future Endeavored t-shirt. Now, this shirt has Future Endeavored written on the front, and it has John Laurinaitis' name, the Executive Vice President, Talent Relations, Interim GM of Monday Night Raw, on the back. Jesus Christ, why?
Anything they can do to make a buck, man. I mean, Future Endeavored among the, smarks or internet marks, I guess you'd call them, that's been a term for a while. Instead of saying, so-and-so got released, he got Future Endeavored. So, I mean, I think they're kind of playing to the internet base a little bit with that one. I don't know anybody who'd actually buy a John Laurinaitis t-shirt, but, that's...
Yeah, it's kind of... It would have been cooler if they just would have did the Future Endeavored on the front, maybe something along those lines, but putting his name on the back and stuff like that, it's a little cheesy. I don't know who would really buy that.
No, I don't know. And if I can actually touch on something a little bit unrelated, I just want to bring up, now that you remind me, on Raw this past Monday in England, somebody had a sign that said, Anonymous Raw GM Storyline, ? I just wanted to touch on that because I thought that was really funny when you think about John Laurinaitis being the Raw GM. Now, I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and speaking of signs, my favorite sign from SmackDown was the #1 fan of Tyler Rex, and that was in the UK. And Tyler Rex, he hasn't been on TV in quite a while. He's been off television for so long that when I saw that sign and I saw that fan was there for Tyler Rex, I mean, they were kind of really starting to push that guy on Superstars and stuff, and they just seemed like his character didn't really go too far.
He's it kind of reminds me of when yourself and I went to Raw in Sunrise, Florida. You carried a "I came all this way for Val Venus" sign, kind of the same concept.
I did. I came all the way there for Val Venus, and you know what? He didn't even make the event.
There was no Val Venus to be seen. Tyler Rex is another guy, though. I mean, he's a big guy. They tried to give him a little bit of a push for, bragging rights? I guess they stuck him on the bragging rights team, and it never really took. He's another guy that, he'll stick around for a little while, doing the job on Superstars. I don't really see him ever making that next level, though.
Yeah, that's kind of a good point, and, just a few minutes we'll be joined by the Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, and his manager, Fantasy, right here on the J.O.B Wrestling Hour. If you have any questions, you can call in 714-694-4101. Also, jump into the chat room, which is always live and in full effect. The last thing I kind of did want to get into real quickly here was I wanted to get your thoughts on the whole WWE Network. And do you think it would be a good business for TNA and Ring of Honor to potentially be on the WWE Network?
Ring of Honor, well, let me preface this by saying I don't think anybody else aside from WWE is going to be on the WWE Network. Somebody like Ring of Honor, if somehow they could work out a deal or some sort of a content sharing, I think it'd be great for them because that's that many more eyes on the product. TNA you'll never see on there because TNA is a, for what it, as far as it is, they're a chief rival of WWE. But I don't think that you'll ever see TNA on there. If Ring of Honor, if you could get them on there, if they could work out some sort of deal where maybe they send guys up, similar to like how ECW had a little bit of an agreement with WWE, I think it would be fantastic for them because the WWE, more eyes are on that than anything,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be related. They don't have to be using their talent, It could just be, just like another way for wrestling shows to have a home, So we're going to take just a quick break here, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll be live with the Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, and his manager, Fantasy, right here on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour.
Hey, hey. I used to be broke, confused, no joke. Got used, smoked dope, paid dues, refused to give up quick. Now there's 10 million motherfuckers on my dick. So what? Say how? Say who? Fuck what? Fuck me? Fuck you. Come clean,
Welcome back to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour right here on Blog Talk Radio. We are live tonight with our special guest this evening, the legendary Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, and his manager, Fantasy. What's going on there tonight?
Oh, it's great to be on the Do Your Job Wrestling. This is Fidel Sierra, the Cuban assassin, as you know, Cuban heavyweight champion. I know Fantasy's trying to call you on another phone. That way we can both be on at the same time.
Yep. Fantasy's actually on the air, too, right now. How you doing, Fantasy?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing
Thanks
well.
for
It's a
having
pleasure
us
having you. Yeah, it's a pleasure having you both on the show this evening. We have a lot to discuss about your careers. Of course, you spent so many years in the wrestling business and are still in the business. So it's great to have you both on tonight.
It's great to be on with you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so kind of starting off, you both have spent, like we said, so much time in the wrestling business. Can you kind of take us back to how it all began for those, especially since you're both married and Fantasy's your manager, how it all kind of started and how you kind of met in the wrestling business?
Yeah, I guess he wants me to take that one. Well, obviously, the Cuban assassin Fidel Sierra has been doing this a whole lot longer than I have, but we have met in the wrestling business in Beaumont, Texas. We met for the first time. We became good friends first, and then I took over his career, and we fell in love, got married, and that's all she wrote.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, a lot of wrestlers in the business, most of their wives don't get that opportunity to work with them. What was it like being able to spend that much time together on the road?
It was really awesome. Not just that we got to spend a lot of time with each other, but I've got to see places and do things that most people will never get to experience in their lifetime, and that's something that is absolutely priceless.
And a lot of it, had to do, she's first place that she really managed me full time was with the World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico, and Carlos Colon gave her a lot of opportunities. I had been there since '85, wrestling in and out, and held every title there was a hold there. But when she became my manager there, and we started this big feud with Invader and then with Carlos Colon and just Ray Gonzalez, and the list goes on and on. It was like Carlos basically gave her the big opportunity that she needed.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like she was Fantasy was a lot more in in Puerto Rico than maybe, let's say, when you were working a lot for WCW. Was there any specific reason why they didn't want to use her as much? Was that a personal choice, or?
Well, there was a lot of almost deals with WCW. At one point, Eric Bischoff told me to get all this stuff made up, and we were in together, and everything was a go. And you know how this wrestling business goes. And 2 weeks later, it all changed.
Yeah, basically somebody cut his throat or stabbed him in the back, so to speak, and I went down with him, but that's how it goes. So But, besides Puerto Rico, I was in India. I was one of the first female managers that they let walk down to the ring in Mexico when he had a big feud against Pierrot. There was a mask versus mask at that time. And he drew 18,000 people in Arena Mexico, which took them 5 years before they broke that record. So, I've been to the Bahamas. I've been all over the States. I've been in a lot of different places. I even worked for ECW for some time, and, it never really panned out over here with WCW. I would have loved it. I think I would have been an asset to their company, but, I enjoyed the ride. It was one hell of a ride, and we had a good time, and I got to see different places, meet different people, and experience a lot of new things, and, learn a lot. It takes a lot to go out there and do the wrestling thing, and, growing up, I wasn't exactly the most outgoing personality, and for me to get up in front of a crowd and get on the mic or, do interview or be on TV or perform in front of 18,000 people, it was just, whether it was, for WWE or WCW, it was just a big accomplishment for myself to overcome, your fears and your certain things, that you have growing up. And so it was really, really a learning experience, and it's taught me a lot, and I'm appreciative that I got to do it, even though I wasn't on TV and stuff here. So
right, and certainly, you and Fidel having that experience, kind of fast-forwarding to a lot of the work that you're doing right now with Florida Underground. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that experience is helping some of the younger talent there?
Florida Underground Wrestling, it's really like I consider the number one promotion here in Florida. Dante Brown tries to bring in some of the best wrestlers that he can. The younger guys are trying to give them the breaks that they don't get nowhere else, with the hopes that, they'll move on down the line to maybe get a break at WWE or TNA. One thing with Florida Underground is we just celebrated a 1-year anniversary running in the same building. It wasn't 1-year anniversary for FEW. It was a 1-year just running there at Gatling Alley in Largo, Florida. And what a show they had that night. I mean, we had like a ladders match with the James Boys against Romeo Rosell and Eddie Torres, and a pile driver match with Maxo Chicago versus Nick Fame, and Michael Tarver wrestled Cahagas, and I was handcuffed to Dante Brown and Bruce Santee. He had a heck of a match with J.D. Maverick, and I mean, it was, second generation Wes Briscoe wrestled Kennedy Kendrick with Cammy in his corner, and Tracy Smothers' daughter was there, Jezebel Smothers. I mean, just that whole card a week ago was unreal.
Oh yeah. Plus, you had other guys like Jay Lethal was there.
Yeah, Jay Lethal.
Lucky Cannon from the NXT WWE, he was also there. I mean, just a fantastic card of both, young wrestlers as well as some more kind of, seasoned and veteran.
Mixture.
Like you said, the biggest show FUW's done.
Yeah, and that's what FUW does. I think it makes it more edgier than any of these other promotions, is that they do mix the stuff up. You got veterans and younger guys, and try to bring more reality back to the, I'm not trying to knock WWE or nothing, because it would never be like a WWE type situation or a TNA, but to give the people something different and to come out and see. I think that's what's wrong with our industry today is they watch the WWE or TNA, and it's sort of like, even though it's different as in the product, but it's almost the same thing, riders riding this and all that. And we're FUW, we like ad-lib a lot.
When we had Cahagas on the show probably a few months ago, he had mentioned a really interesting point where, some of these fans who, go to like an FUW show or maybe like a CCW show down further South Florida. This is like their WWE. They go to it so often. They're so in touch with the wrestlers and the storylines that are happening, and it's pretty much how they look at it as being, this is their big product.
Right, and they get into it. I mean, they get into the matches, and not like in an entertaining way. It's sort of like a mixture of the '80s with today's era. You know what I mean? And the fans get into it, and it's. I noticed that because I help as much as I can the younger guys, and I noticed where the people really get into these matches, and it's like you said, you know what I mean, and I know there's a lot of good wrestlers in Miami area and Orlando area and all that, and we got a lot of them that travel to come to wrestle for us for Florida Underground Wrestling, with Bruce Marquis, Bruce Marquis, he's like, one of the best indie wrestlers wrestling right now in the state of Florida. He's our champion who beat me for the FUW champion, and that was our first heavyweight champion.
I want to ask you your thoughts on the reemergence of the NWA Ring Warriors. You having been an NWA guy yourself, what are your thoughts on the resurrection of that company, and do you have any plans to do any work with NWA Ring Warriors?
Well, you know what? I really like their concept. I like Howard Brody. I've been trying to get a hold of him. I wouldn't. Let's put it this way. I wouldn't leave FUW just to go do that. I would love to help them in any kind of way I can. I've been trying to get a hold of Howard Brody, and he hasn't called me back. But, I was looking at their card for the December 14th, I believe, and it looks like a very interesting card. I think if they give the people something different, the same way Florida Underground Wrestling is doing, I think the people will support them. They will come to see them and stand behind them.
Oh, absolutely, and certainly, that's definitely good for the wrestling business down in, especially in Florida, where Florida has always had such a good legacy of wrestling, especially during the territory days, and certainly, there's a lot of really good wrestling down in Florida. What you don't see, and I would want to get your thoughts on this, of you don't see a lot of guys out of Florida, at least recently, kind of breaking it big into the business, kind of maybe making it to that next level. What do you think the reason is behind that, and who do you think are the next guys to actually break out?
Well, what I think it has, let's face it, the politics of it all. Right now, if you're not part of the Florida Championship Wrestling Developmental Deal, it's kind of hard. It's almost like FCW takes FUW as a threat, and we're really not a threat. FCW does their own thing, we do our own thing, and I think that we got a bunch, there's a bunch of guys who should be their FCW moving on to WWE, or to TNA, and I think a lot of the FCW part that blocks them is because they are wrestling for a promotion that's running every week, and I think it kind of, not that it's competition, because we're just doing our own thing. Florida Underground Wrestling, Dante Brown is trying to do his own thing and just do it his own style, but I think it's sort of, in a way, puts heat on some of these younger guys that should be getting a look at.
Plus, I really honestly think that these days they're looking for a certain image. They're looking for these really tall guys, muscular, and, honestly, a lot of times I'll look at some of the talent that, that's being pushed, and I'm being like, damn, if I see them on the street or somewhere, I wouldn't even recognize them. They're just so, I call them cookie cutters, same hairstyle, same trunk, same, similar gimmicks, and, the best way to express that is if you'd have somebody like Dusty Rhodes breaking into the business these days, he probably wouldn't even get a chance. And look what a legend Dusty Rhodes is. You know what I mean? It just doesn't fit with their image that they have in their head. And I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of, younger talent that definitely has the potential and has the talent does not get the opportunity because, they might not fit that perfect image that they have or that vision of the wrestlers that they're looking for. and it's a shame because I think it takes away from the overall, the entertainment value and the effectiveness and what wrestling was. And that's what I like about FUW. They let their talent develop their own, characters and gimmick, and they support that. And that's why I also like, about Cuban. Not only is he still in excellent ring shape because he can still get in there and, put on a hell of a show and have one hell of a match where the young guys go, oh, my God, where did that come from? This is amazing because he tells a story. He has, the knowledge. But one thing that a lot of people don't realize is how much he actually knows about the wrestling business. How the storylines that he can put together, the ideas, the way he, the finishes, everything, the way he puts together. He'd be a great, if he'd have an hour of TV, oh, my God, he could do so much with it. And I think anybody that does not take advantage of his talent and experience, it's just basically their loss because he is a huge asset to any company, whether it be small, large, or medium-sized. And I know I'm a little biased, but I am, I've seen a lot, and I'm being as objective as I, can be. And he's really good at what he does because he's got old-school knowledge, he's got old-school values, but he mixes it in with, modern, edgy, modern kind of stuff. And it just really just a good addition to any company, in my opinion.
And it's interesting that you say that because, a lot of the what you see now, especially with, the big companies, is it seems like maybe from, maybe my vantage point, maybe some other fans' vantage point, that it's either one or the other. It's either you get the real nothing but like the old school, or maybe more of the 90s type stuff, or you get something completely new without much emphasis on maybe some of the old school type mentality as well.
Right.
Yeah, and what I see, I watch wrestling. I mean, I watch Raw on Monday nights, not as I watch it to see, to try to stay up to date with stuff, and and what I see them, a lot of stuff. Let's face it, on Mondays they start something and they end it on that same Monday. A lot of times, it's all for the ratings and all that, which they got to do some of it that way, but. How far do they go with some of the storylines, So,
and it's the same thing, like when you watch some of the, younger guys or the lightweights, or, they do some amazing stuff in the ring where you go, oh, my God, how can they do that? How can they get up and, move or how, just amazing. But the problem is they do one high spot after the other, don't give the people a chance to absorb what they've seen, and they're not getting the right response, the right pops, the right reaction that, if they would put it in the right story, in the right, order and not rush so much, they will get so much more of a reaction. And, that's the kind of thing that a lot of the younger talent doesn't learn anymore. And it's a shame because, it makes for a much better wrestling, it makes a much better entertainment, and it gives them a much better chance of succeeding at what, they want to do.
We are live tonight with the Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, and his manager, Fantasy, right here on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour. We're at the bottom half hour of the show. We're going to take just a little quick break here, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we will return with our interview with the Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, and his manager, Fantasy, right here on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour.
This is Tokyo Monster Kahagan, and you're listening to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour.
Welcome back to the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour right here on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, ConKaiserdor, alongside with old school Avis Hathaway. We are live tonight with the Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, and his manager, Fantasy. Great to have you both on the show this evening, as we've been really looking forward to having you both on. Certainly, you've already shared so much with us of your time in the business, kind of how you guys met as well, kind of doing it as well. So, I kind of wanted to rewind a little bit on your earlier parts of your career, and certainly you're working with so many of the newer talent now, placing yourself back in that time period where you were first breaking into the business, how did it all start?
Well, I was trained by the late Hiro Matsuda here in Florida, and then the late King Curtis and Rocky Johnston, which is The Rock's father, helped me get to Dallas in 1978, and from that point on, I went from there to the Carolinas, and when I was in Dallas, I got to work all the Von Erichs, God bless them, and I worked Hardy Race, and you know what I mean, and even though I was putting them over 10, 12-minute matches, I was learning a lot, and then went from there on to the Carolinas and got to work Steamboat and Flair and everybody, such great talent that they had back then in the Carolinas, and went from there and came here to Florida and got to work the late Jack Briscoe and Jerry Briscoe and just the list goes on and on, all the great workers that I got to wrestle, went on to Portland, Oregon, and got to wrestle Playboy Buddy Rose and Roddy Piper and so many greats. The late Kurt Hennig, God bless, his first sellout was with me in Portland, Oregon, and it was unreal, back then, the way things, I got lucky that there was territories, and I got to bounce from state to state, and got to go to Japan and got to wrestle Fujinami and got to wrestle Andre the Giant in 6-man tags and in tag matches, and Antonio Inoki, and then went from on there to Australia, and just I got a trip coming up. I'm going to Nigeria here December 1st, for UPWF, and there's some great talent that's going to be there, from Bobby Lashley to Shelton Benjamin to Michael Tarver.
Powers of Pain.
Yeah, me and Michael Tarver are going to be wrestling the Powers of Pain, Barbarian and the Warlord, and there's a lot of great talent on that tour from Kevin Sullivan that's helped me put it together. I can't complain. I went off a little bit off the subject you were talking about. That's what was so good back then, is getting to go to these different places and wrestling these different people. I mean, going to Puerto Rico and wrestling the legendary Carlos Colon, and from Carlos Colon to Abdullah the Butcher to you name it, and I got to work them, and it helped me, when I went to the Carolinas wrestling. I don't know if you ever heard of Sweet Hansen, and not Stan Hansen, it's a Sweet Hansen, and it wasn't easy. I was like, wow, the difference between learning back then and learning now is a whole different ballgame. I mean, now you get to the developmental deal, you're already making big money. Back then, you had to earn your deal, if you might have been first or third match, and then if they liked you and you got to push you, but you still, no matter what, you had to bust your ass.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in here. Again, Fidel, thank you so much for being on our show. It's fascinating to kind of listen to some of these stories. You've worked a veritable who's who in this business. You kind of touched on it, Carlos Colon and the Harley Race, Ric Flair, and the list goes on.
Oh, Howard Grove, Ric Flair in Portland, Oregon. I mean, into the match. I mean, it's so great. The people into it. Both of our chests bleeding from chopping each other so much. You know what I mean? But it was great back then, and not that I still love the business nowadays. It was just I just wish there was still territories, because a lot of these guys would be getting different breaks and learning more, and get more experience.
Well, you bring up a great point with the territory system, because, back in the late, the early '80s, late '70s, and I mean even before then, the territories really gave guys a chance to kind of hone their craft and travel around and get exposed to a bigger audience. And I mean, I think sadly, today, it's without the territory system the way it is, a lot of guys that otherwise should probably be getting a bigger audience. A lot of guys here in Florida, Bobby Sanford, Cahagas. I mean, these are guys that I think could very easily make it on a bigger stage.
If you would have seen the match that Cahagas had in Sebring, Florida, a couple of weeks ago against Michael Tarver. You know, I mean, it was unreal. That was like a pay-per-view quality match, and you know, and Cahagas deserves. You know what, Cahagas deserves to be there at WWE. Why they haven't, you know, is again, it's the politics of this business. But he should be there.
Who are some of your favorite memories of being in the ring with? I mean, a guy like you, he's been in the ring with really, like I said, everybody. Do you pick and choose out of guys you feel that you had the best matches or brought the best out of you?
It's just there's so many guys, you know what I mean? It was so great wrestling Kurt Hennig, you know, before I knew that Kurt Hennig was going to end up at WWF at that time, and that he was there wrestling in Portland, wrestling, being groomed for Vince, you know, and I would tell Kurt Hennig then, you know, me and Kurt were very, very, very close friends, you know. I lost like a brother there when he passed away, and, you know, we had a coal miner's glove match, and it, like I said, that was his first sellout, and it was just, I ended up, he hit me with a glove, or I hit him with a brass knuckles. He asked for a coal miner's glove match, and that's all it was back then. And I remember like it was yesterday, you got me pushed against the wall. I got no choice but in your career next week. And I remember Dono and said, well, it should be a pretty good crowd next week. Well, it ended up turning away like 2,000 people.
Do you keep up with the current product? Like I know Kurt Hennig's son is now in the WWE, and you know a lot of these guys is, you know, some of their sons are coming up. Carlos Colon's obviously Carlito had a nice run there in WWE. Do you still keep up with the current product?
Yeah, I do keep up. You know, and Eddie Colon's there. I think they should be using him better, and now they're using Orlando Colon. And you know, as going back to Kurt Hennig's son, it's beyond my. I just can't believe that they don't utilize that he's a Hennig, you know.
I agree. They don't even give him the last name, you know.
Right. You know, that McGillicuddy or, you know, yeah, that might be his, I don't know if that's his real last name or what, but, you know, they should be using him, you know, differently, you know. And I think that's happening with a lot of these second-generation wrestlers.
Well, it almost feels to me, and I could be way off, but it almost seems to me that they almost feel that the current generation of wrestling fans, or, you know, a lot of the younger fans don't have any knowledge in, or maybe just don't care about, you know, some of the guys that really made the wrestling business what it is. I mean, Ted DiBiase, his son's there, and, you know, they don't really utilize the legacy that some of these guys have that I think that could really go a long way.
Right, but if you took all those guys and you packaged that all the right way, all their fathers, and you led into that storyline of all those sons, and you put all together, I think it would have so much attention, and the people that grew up watching the Hennigs and, like you said, the Ted DiBiases and the Mike Rotundos and all these guys, you know what I mean? And Jerry Briscoe's son, I can't understand why they let Wes Briscoe go FCW. He's such a great talent, looks so good. And I think they make big mistakes not utilizing these guys the way they should.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Cody Rhodes, and I'm glad they're kind of using him and giving him
I'm very glad.
somewhat of a push. I think he's great.
Yeah, he is great, you know, and Dusty, you know, Dusty taught me so much when I was working here for Florida Championship Wrestling, the real Florida Championship Wrestling, I call it. Dusty did teach me a lot of stuff, you know, and kept his word with a lot of stuff when he was using me, you know. I wrestled as a Saint here in Florida for a while, and it was me and Crusher Khrushchev and Jim Neidhart together, and we battled the Freebirds, and we battled the Dutch Mantel, and you know, Sir Oliver Humperdinck to manage us, and you know, so it was some great runs here in Florida that I got to have. That's not only as a Saint, but as Fidel Sierra, as the Cuban Assassin with Ricky Santana. I mean, you know, it was so lucky back then.
Well, now, kind of going back, both. This is a question for both you and Fantasy. Do you find a lot of the younger guys now, when you work shows, whether it be for Florida Underground or elsewhere, a lot of the younger guys kind of coming to you and picking your brains as somebody who's really been in this business and kind of seen everything there is to see?
Well, I think so, especially, you know, more Fidel than myself because obviously he's got a lot more experience than me. He's been in the business a lot longer. But over the years, I have picked up a lot, because I watch and I learn. And he really taught me the old school. And, a lot of times I just shake my head but keep my mouth closed because it's some of these young guys, they just have no clue. And I look at them just even with the things that they do, the way they act, they don't come in, they don't shake hands, they don't say goodbye, they don't have that kind of respect. And I have to remind myself that, a lot of that is because they haven't been taught the right way. Because, every Tom, Dick, and Harry these days has a wrestling school, and there's guys out there teaching wrestling that, should not be. And so we try to do what we can, especially Fidel, to, teach them and, pull them aside and tell them, hey, if you try to do things this way and that way, and it is nice when we're at the shows and there is a lot of respect. Because they do realize that, we've been a lot of different places and have seen a lot of things. And, it's nice. It really, it makes you feel good, But then you get the other side where everybody, they think they know everything, what they're doing and things like that. But, so, you pick and choose the ones that you think are worth helping out that, won't fall in the death ear, and you do what you can, and you just have fun with it, No matter where we go, no matter what we do, we try to have fun with it because it's not something that ever gets old. You can be in the business for 20-some years or 30-some years, and it's still exciting when you go out there. It's still quite a rush, and it's a really awesome feeling to get out in front of the fans and get them basically to do what you want them to do, and it's just a really, really great feeling. And I'm just grateful that I've got to experience it and be part of it. And, and honestly, I mean, I might have not worked for WCW, but I did get to manage Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig in Puerto Rico several times. I've managed Tatanka, I've managed Barbarian in England on the tour we were at. And, there's quite a few other. I mean, I've been in the ring with Monster Ripper, God bless her soul, and a few others. So there's a lot, I've met a lot of the legends. And I believe today, actually, I want to take a moment to remember Eddie Guerrero. I believe today is his anniversary when he passed away. And, we've lost a lot of good friends. And the wrestling business has lost a lot of good talent, a lot of legends in their own right. So I just wanted to take a moment to, remember them and honor them and say thank you for everything they've given us. So
I did have actually one more question that you kind of led into that brings up a perfect point. Is, today in wrestling, the manager/valet has kind of really, I don't want to say gone away, but really been played down. And I just kind of want your thoughts on that as a manager, because to me, managers, valets, that sort of thing kind of really made storylines. When you had managers with stables or, it really furthered the storyline, furthered the psychology. And it seems as though a lot of the big companies have kind of gone away from that. And I just want to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Well, you know what? The one thing I want to say is that on the independent level, there's still a lot of what I consider valets, because it's somebody's girlfriend or somebody they want to impress. They let them walk to the ring. They have no clue, and that's fine and dandy. I've been there years ago where it was my first time, and I was learning, so I don't have a problem with that. But I always consider myself a manager. My role models were people like Sherry Martel, and characters like Luna. And I do admire the thing for the WWE divas, they call them, because, they might have started out as managers, but they have grown in their own right. And I think it is absolutely fabulous that they can get in the ring and do what they do and hold their own, that they're not just a pretty face, great, nice body, and just fluff and icing on the cake. Those girls can really get in there, and they take a lot of punishment. They work hard, and, you know, they keep up with the guys, and I really, really admire that. And, you know, there's going to come the time when managers become in again, and, you know, everything goes in a circle. And, you know, I do what I do, and I get involved. I get in the ring. I've had a few matches, and, you know, I really, really think it's a good thing because it's taken their role to a whole different level.
But at the same time, I think there is a lot of that missing these days. I think, you know, like having a female manager in WWE or managers, period, I think, like you said, that will go around in a circle. I think they're going to realize that they're going to have to come back to that one of these days. You know? And
you really do see managers, but not in a, you know, traditional sense. You've got the personal ring announcer, and you've got the proteges, and you've got their partners, and they basically fill the roles of the managers, but they're just not just managers. You know, they're not the traditional, but they, you know, still be utilized a little bit. But again, I think, you know, you don't want every single person to have a manager and overdo it, because then that takes away. But I think they are missing a few managers.
I definitely think it's a great point. I mean, if you look at Vicky Guerrero, she is incredibly hated, but I think she's just amazingly good in her role. Because if you look at a guy like Jagger, Dolph Ziggler, they may not have gotten the amount of heat or gotten to where they are without her kind of drawing heat in for them. And that's kind of what my point is. You know, the managers, to me, play an integral role.
Right, and I'm glad you brought up Vicky Guerrero, because she is one of the people I admire very much. She has come from behind the curtain, from behind the scene, and did what she had to do to, you know, support her family, and she is doing an absolute fabulous job. I absolutely love her. It's amazing the heat she has, and I think it's great, and she does it on her personality. And that kind of leads me back to the point I was making earlier. Here is someone that doesn't necessarily fit their image. You know, when you look at all the other divas, everybody's like Barbie dolls, pretty, small, you know, gorgeous, and hey, that's great. You know, not everybody can look like that. But here's Vicky Guerrero, and I'm not taking anything away from her, but she's not that. She doesn't have that Barbie doll look. But look at her; she's got more heat than anybody else. And I think, you know, that's what they're missing out, is that the only reason Vicky Guerrero even had the opportunity is because she was Vicky Guerrero's wife. And under no other circumstances can I picture anybody else having an opportunity like that. And I think it's great that she got it and she ran with it, and she's exceedingly good at her job. But I think there's so many people out there that, given the opportunity, would exceed and be so good at what they do, but they never get that opportunity because they don't fit that imaginary, you know, role or image that the people in charge, the people with power these days have. And I think that's a little bit, you know, disappointing, but it's also their loss because they're limiting themselves. And, you know, that's just my opinion, but, you know, I kind of got off track there, but
that's great. Greatly appreciate it.
I mean, you really hit the nail right on the head, and I think, you know, Vicky Guerrero is, and I was kind of listening to what you guys were talking about, just kind of nodding my head like, absolutely. I mean, she's a piece that was missing for a while, and it's so awesome that she's been able to step from behind the curtain, and after the loss of Eddie, and now she's kind of etched her own niche in the business, and she really is a big. I mean, in my opinion, I think she's a draw because she brings much heat. You know, it's just amazing. I wanted to switch gears and also kind of talk a little about how I know you guys also have a restaurant, Crazy Dave Sports Bar in Largo, Florida.
Yeah.
How did you guys get into the restaurant business?
Well, we used to own a small motel with my family, And we sold that years back, and, we figured, well, we're not traveling as much as we used to, and, you got to have something to fall back on and something else that you do besides, just the wrestling. And so, we looked around and we figured, hey, what would fit in with our lifestyle? Well, a bar, have fun, good atmosphere, have a few drinks, and, use our notoriety, so to speak, to help promote the product. So we looked around, we found a little sports bar in Largo, and we've owned it now for 8 years. And I have to say, we make the best Cuban around. We call it Crazy Dave Sports Bar, home of the 9-inch Cuban. And it's the best Cuban sandwich, 9 inches, guaranteed, that you can get in town. And and
our motto is zero tolerance for bullshit.
Yeah, we have a big picture there of Fidel's body slamming Midian, so.
I'm going to have to try that because I am a connoisseur of Cuban sandwiches. I am a big fan of Cuban sandwiches.
It's 9 inches, though, old school. I don't know if you'll take 9 inches of a Cuban sandwich.
Okay,
I give it my best shot.
Even the guys are asking for 9 inches at Crazy Dave, so that's how good it is.
And it's a real Cuban sandwich. I mean, it's got the roast pork. It's got everything in there that a real Cuban sandwich has. A lot of people make these Cuban sandwiches, and they ain't the real deal. And, we got the best wings in town. And
we do a little karaoke, and we have live bands, and, we have pool leagues and a little bowling league in there. And it's not a big place, and it's not, we don't have liquor, it's just beer and wine, but nice, friendly, local neighborhood bar, and, we really, really enjoy it. We like being there. We enjoy our customers, and it's always great when we get somebody that, found us on the Internet and Crazy Dave Sports Bar or CubanWorldwide.com and just found us, and they're in town for a day, and they just got to stop by and say hello. So it's really cool. It's a good business to have, and something where we can still travel if we need to, and he can be gone, or I can take care of the business, and it's not something that we have to devote our time to full time, but it's something that's there that we can fall back on. So,
it's amazing how many fans that do come in, from old school fans to new eras, or that follow Florida Underground Wrestling every Tuesday, Gasoline Alley, or they just, they know my background or fantasy background in the wrestling business, and I'll have people pop in and they'll tell me stuff, and you could tell a hardcore wrestling fan when they go back and can tell you something you did 15 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah. And they sit there for hours talking about the old days. We've got pictures from everybody on our walls and stuff, from all our travels and, all the big superstar and friends. And we actually had Sherry Martel before she passed away. She used to live in this area, and she would do the celebrity bartending thing for us, and she'd come out and hang out, and she loved it, and, it was great. So, if anybody's out there listening, I am in the market. I'm looking actually for a literary agent because I'm not involved as much in the wrestling business as I used to because I've been busy running the business, and also I've gotten involved in writing, and I'm looking actually for an agent right now to I'm shopping for an agent to sell my manuscript, and I know everybody's going, oh, God, no, not another wrestling book, and, no, it's something totally different. This is actually fiction, not, biography or wrestling related, and so I'm, if you guys know anybody or anybody out there listening that'd be interested in taking a look, you can always contact us at CubanWorldwide@AOL.com, so that's what I've been into besides just the wrestling thing and the bar.
we'll post that on our Facebook as well as on Twitter as well. I have so many people on there that you never know who that if there's someone on your friends list who could be that person. I mean, especially with Victor.
Exactly, and especially I'm working on a second one where I'm using it's total fictional. It's like a murder mystery type thing, but in the second book I'm using the wrestling as a backdrop. So I'm using my experience and my skill and my background as a reference for that novel. So the second one is a really good story as well. So I'm excited, and I know eventually this is going to work out really well and give me a lot of good years to come and a lot of good stories and reminiscing that I can utilize. So.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Especially, you guys got a lot of stuff going on. You got the FUW still. You got the restaurant. Got your writing. I mean, that's pretty awesome. You guys are staying busy and everything like that. And we got one last question out of the chat room from one of our longtime listeners, Y2 Jibber Jabber. He wants to know if there's any story from behind the scenes or something you can share with us, maybe a good rib story from your time in the wrestling business.
Well, God, I can go back to one time, late Kurt Hennig, and we were in the Pacific Northwest, and we all came back from a battle royal, and I don't know how Kurt did it, but everybody was putting their underwear and shorts and pants on after the matches. They were all going crazy, itching. He had put itching powder. That's just one of the ribs, but that just one that popped in my head when you just said that. I mean, everybody was going crazy, and even Kurt he acted like he was, like it happened to him too, and that was one of the ribs, and another time, because I know you said another time we were wrestling in Salem, Oregon, and when we came back, everybody's bags were hanging off of this big pipe 10 feet up on the ceiling, all our wrestling bags, and even Kurt's was hanging up there, but somehow he got his down, and God bless him, I know he got us all with that.
That's awesome. There's always some great stories, especially, since you've been in the business for as long as you have been. I'm sure there's probably thousands of stories you probably have on the road.
There's a lot of them. I want to do my own book one day, but I don't want to do it right now because I'm scared I'll get more enemies and because if I tell the truth about so many of these great ribs and stories, a lot of the guys might be mad at me, but I just want everybody, we got wrestling this Tuesday night, Florida Underground Wrestling at Gasoline Alley in Largo, bell time at 9 p.m., got a great card scheduled. There's a big face-off between me and Ralph Moscow. He sort of hit me with Cahagas' Kindle stick last week, and you got J.D. Maverick against Wes Briscoe, and just a lot of great deals, a lot of great matches this Tuesday night at Gasoline Alley. Florida Underground is always bringing you the best.
Absolutely. FUW, great product. And for those of you down in the South Florida area, especially in that part of town, definitely check out FUW. Also, one of the coolest things, at least for me, I used to live in South Florida, but now I live in Baltimore. One of the coolest things is I know Cahagas always posts his matches from FUW, so I can kind of watch.
Yes, he does.
It's awesome. I just watched the Tarver and Cahagas match a couple of days ago, and like you said, I mean, that was a really awesome match. And when you watched, you really didn't get to see Michael Tarver's true skills and talent in WWE. He was kind of like the joke of the Nexus group or whatever. But
yeah.
But in FUW, man, he's really good to watch. So.
Yes, he's very good, and if you would have seen the match they had in Sebring, like I said, that match was good last Tuesday night, 1 year anniversary show of Florida Underground Wrestling, but the week before, that Saturday before that, they had a match, and it was, like I said, it would been like a pay-per-view match for any organization.
Absolutely. Also, check out CubanWorldwide.com. That is Fidel Sierra and Fantasy's website, as well as CrazyDaveSportsBar.com. That is the restaurant, sports bar, and grill website as well. Before you guys conclude for the night, would you mind doing a drop for the show to play on future shows?
I would do anything you want.
Awesome. Well, whenever you guys are ready, the time is yours to drop away.
Okay, this is Fidel Sierra, legendary Cuban assassin, and you got to listen to Do Your Job Wrestling, the best in wrestling has to offer.
And this is Fantasy, the First Lady of Professional Wrestling, and Do Your Job Wrestling is the way to go.
Awesome. We thank you so much for being on the show this evening. It was a pleasure having you both on, and thanks for taking the time.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, and we would love to do it again sometime. We've both been sick under the weather for the last week, so that's why we're a little bit, but maybe another time we'll get to do it again, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope everybody listening enjoyed it.
And make sure when you're in the area, come check out the 9-inch Cuban.
Yeah. Next time I'm down there, Old School and I will have to plan a trip to Largo and check out the 9-inch Cuban. And great having you both. It's great having you both on the show. And thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule, especially.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been great.
You guys take care.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.
All right, that was the Cuban assassin, Fidel Sierra, and his manager, Fantasy, live on the Do Your Job Wrestling Hour. Great show tonight, Old School.
Oh, my God. I mean, we always have a lot of great guests, and every guest I really enjoy, but this is one I really enjoyed. I mean, to hear the stories of people a guy that's been in the ring, like you said, with everybody from Andre the Giant to, the Von Erichs, it's just a treat.
Absolutely. It's so awesome to have someone on the show who's kind of been one of those road pavers, so to speak, for a lot of the talent today, and especially when you watch like an FUW, a lot of those guys who get to work with the Cuban assassin, it must be a real awesome experience to share in that legacy and to kind of take your career to that next level by working with someone who has spent so much time in the business.
And that's the thing is, he's one of those guys that he can still work. He can still do it. You get a lot of guys that get up there in years and they just try to kind of hang on to their legacy and, perform past their time. Fidel can still go and he can still bring it in the ring.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's still in pretty good ring shape, and it's very, very cool. It's very cool that he's still doing his thing, and they got the restaurant, stuff like that, and Fantasy's doing her writing and stuff. I almost wanted to recommend Charlie Runkle, but I realized that wasn't real life. That's for those who I just started watching Californication, and man, that is a great show, and
it really is.
In my mind, I watch like 5 or 6 episodes per day now.
It is a great show. Showtime. It's one of the reasons to have Showtime. Really, that and Dexter.
The last episode I watched was the one with Rick Springfield, where they bust into his tour van and he's listening to his own music.
His own music. Yeah.
Oh my God, that was hilarious! And all the blood was on the ground, and he's trying to scratch it up. Good stuff. So don't forget that next week, November 20th, we have a live interview with the quintessential stud muffin, Joel Gertner. He'll be live on the show. I know it's Survivor Series is also, but you know what? The Do Your Job Wrestling Hour will beat out Survivor Series in an overall better product, I guarantee. You can read the spoilers for the pay-per-view. I'm sure someone probably knows the outcome of that match, but you don't know the outcome of our interview. So tune in November 20th.
One of those guys, you never know what he's going to say.
Oh, absolutely. We can't wait to have him on. And November 27th is going to be a great show. Our last show in November, we have Vito DiNucci. Vito is working with NWA Ring Warriors, not actually as a worker, but kind of behind the scenes. He's one of the partners of that new reemergence of NWA Ring Warriors, so he'll be on the show. We look forward to having them on. And really, this month has been great. November, what a month we've had so far. Just jam-packed every week of some amazing talent and great personalities on the show. It's been probably one of my favorite months.
It really has. The thing is with this show is, we have so many great people on, and each week's just a great week. At least for us, hopefully you guys are enjoying it just as much as we are. And we got a lot of great guests coming up. Like you said, Joel Gertner, Vito DiNucci is one half of the new Heavenly Bodies. Multiple-time NWA Tag Team Champions, as well as being involved with this Ring Warrior. So, stay tuned. Hopefully this next year, we'll continue to bring you guys the best internet radio show out there.
Oh, yeah, and we didn't even get into December. We got Alex Wright, Triple Crown WCW champion. I mean, Alex Wright, I mean, what a name in WCW, I mean, during its heyday. He's going to be on the show in December, and then we're working on seeing if we can get Frightmare to do a Frightmare Before Christmas episode, as he had his ACL injury, so I hope he's recovering well, and hopefully we'll have him on the show. And, of course, December would not be the same without our tradition guy, Santa Claus, coming on the show. From what I hear, last I heard from the North Pole, he was going to be coming in on his sleigh December 18th.
Santa Claus will be making an appearance. We can confirm that. The elves have told us that it wouldn't be Christmas without him stopping by and saying hello to all the naughty and nice wrestling fans out there. So, get your wish list ready for that show.
Absolutely, and the rumor has it that Santa will be speaking. He will be speaking about what he plans on getting certain wrestlers for Christmas and who's been naughty and who's been nice. I know last year you were nice. I was on the naughty list for some reason, even though you were a real dick to me last year. But I don't know, guy. I really don't know.
You're naughty for calling me a dick. See, I would never be so rude to you. I would never call you such a vile name. But Santa's listening right now. He knows when you're naughty. He knows when you're nice. So you're gonna mess around and end up on the naughty list yet again.
All right, guy. Well, that's fine. But don't forget to tune in next week as we have our interview with the quintessential stud muffin, Joel Gertner, formerly of ECW, also running his own promotion in Connecticut. We'll talk all about that. Can't wait for that interview. It should be pretty awesome. So for Old School Avis Hathaway and the ConKaiserdor, we'll say goodnight, and we'll see you next week with Joel Gertner. Good night, everybody.